Trump voters rise up on the internet in full revolt.
All right, we have a major vibe shift alert. Trump supporters in the crowd at Charlie Kirk's latest event were basically booing and spitting on the administration throughout the event due to their Jeffrey Epstein cover-up. Trump did not realize what he was stepping in, and now it's blown up in his face. Just to lay the groundwork a little bit, Charlie Kirk holds these events for his Turning Point USA apparatus, and the events in and of themselves are actually pretty clever. He weaves together a bunch of right-wing politicians, media figures, celebrities, people who aren't even involved in politics to create this big convention where they have normal people that aren't paying attention to politics come to see celebrities. But then while they're seeing celebrities, Tucker Carlson is speaking and young students are there, older people are there, people of all demographics are there to hear the same propaganda. The point is, we need stuff like that on our side. Maybe it's something we should be working on actively. I want to start off with this clip of Tucker Carlson saying, this is not really the administration I voted for.
We knew that. But the fact that the U.S. government, the one that I voted for, refused to take my question seriously and instead said, case closed, shut up, conspiracy theorist, was too much for me. And I don't think the rest of us should be satisfied with that. And by the way, let me just...
It gets worse. Later on, Megyn Kelly asked if anyone's happy, and the crowd begins to boo. But you know, when I said vibe shift, I really meant vibe shift, because you see a lot of the conservative figures who are wired to be conspiratorial now aiming the conspiracies at the Trump admin. I want to show you this clip of Tucker Carlson. Don't worry, I'm not all of a sudden agreeing with Tucker Carlson or whatever, but I do think that he, Charlie Kirk, and the other right-wing MAGA figures were saying some really interesting things about the Trump admin, and we have to be paying attention. We have to know what to exploit and what we should be focusing on, because we want transparency from the administration, first and foremost. But we also want to be able to use this against MAGA. Listen to this.
But then he winds up indicted again. He comes back from France, gets indicted again, and famously dies in federal lockup in Manhattan. And it's very obvious from the beginning that this is not a suicide. And then the medical...
Talking about Jeffrey Epstein, of course.
...examiner's like, no, he was strangled to death. So all of this information's on the internet. Everybody who cares to know knows it. They're not conspiracy theorists. They're not mentally ill. And Pam Bondi knows it, and she's talked about it a lot. And she goes on Fox, and she's like, actually, it's all true. And we've got thousands of videos of underage girls being abused. And I have the client list on my desk, and I'm going to release all of this. And then, 4 days ago, she comes out with an official statement from the Department of Justice saying, actually, no, he did kill himself. We know that for a fact. And here's an edited video from an irrelevant angle that proves it, even though, of course, it does not at all prove it. And we have no evidence that he hurt anybody, and we're not indicting anyone, and his former girlfriend, Ghislaine Maxwell's in jail, and that's enough, and he's dead, and it was a natural death, and like, shut up, conspiracy theorists. And people who voted for Trump, not the left, Trump voters rise up on the internet in full revolt. And not just on Twitter, where there are some wackos, to be honest, and me, non-wackos too, but like normal people, 65-year-old Trump voters who were like, I don't believe that aliens running the government or anything, but...
Charlie Kirk and Tucker Carlson then continue to describe how this is broken through even voters who aren't really online. I mean, we go on YouTube a lot. I spend a lot of time on like Instagram and Twitter, so it's easy to forget that large portions of the US population don't really consume online stuff. And even these people are like, wait, what's going on with Trump and Epstein?
You're lying to me, and not only are you lying to me, you're patronizing me and calling me names when I ask questions. You're acting like the freaking liberals do. When they don't want to answer a question, they just call you a racist and move on. Like, no, I voted for you because I wanted you to respect me as a citizen and pay me the compliment of treating me like an adult, and you're not. So I do think, I know something about it. I do think that most people in the Trump administration, including the president, didn't realize that they were stepping into this. I think a lot of people at DOJ, including Dan Bongino, who I consider a decent man and a man of integrity.
He might resign over this.
He's threatening to right now. I think they kind of got blindsided by this. I think it was, I don't think I know, it was Pam Bondi who issued this issued this statement. And
I do disagree with some of the way that they're framing this. It's very fascinating, like I said, to listen to some of this. I told you guys at the beginning, there's a fascinating conversation they're having at these right-wing events, not because like we're on their side, but because it's just interesting to hear their internal dialogue. But they are doing this thing where they place all of the blame at Pam Bondi, or they act like the buck stops with Pam Bondi. When she was put in as a loyalist in the DOJ, she's an attorney general who is not making unilateral decisions herself. The decisions come top down from Donald Trump. That's how it works in every department. RFK Jr. is not really making decisions about the health of the country. Pete Hegseth is not fully running the Department of Defense. Donald Trump wants people in each department who he can control and who he thinks look good on TV. That's literally it. That's why he likes Christino. He chose Pete Hegseth straight from Fox News. He wants people who can look good and defend him.
I don't think Pam Bondi's a bad person. I don't think she's covering up for Jeffrey Epstein.
By the way, the buck does not stop with Pam Bondi. It stops with Donald Trump, as I just said.
What I know to be true, since you asked. They don't have any information on Jeffrey Epstein's sex crimes, actually. And they never have had any. Because in 2007, under the Bush administration, when he was indicted and the search warrant was issued, if you read the search warrant, which I think is online and you can read it, it's written in such a way not to reveal information about Jeffrey Epstein, but to hide it, to protect Jeffrey Epstein. He was being protected then, and so they didn't gather the information. I've never had custody of information showing who was having sex with these underage girls as part of this blackmail deal. Like, I think that's the actual truth. So the real scandal here is who he was working for and where the money came from. That's the actual scandal. And no one will say anything about it because the answer...
Was it American intelligence?
No.
Was it Saudi intelligence? No. Was it British intelligence?
It was Israeli intelligence. And everyone's embarrassed to say that because you're not allowed to say that or something because you're a hater, but you're not a hater at all. You can think Israel's a great country that deserves our support, as I do.
My best memories are in Israel.
Yeah, it's great. I've taken my family on vacation there. But
now they begin to veer into more conspiracy theories, but I do want to show you this next clip of Laura Ingraham. Wait, did I say Megyn Kelly earlier? Megyn Kelly did another panel with Charlie Kirk. Laura Ingraham asks the crowd, hey, how are you guys feeling about this?
How many of you are satisfied? You can clap. Satisfied with the results of the Epstein investigation? Clap. Okay, I told you to clap. You guys aren't listening. I'm not going to grade you on a curve. So I was going to get to that. How many of you are not satisfied with the results of the investigation?
I am telling you, the MAGA fan base is not happy. And I want you to listen to this Tucker Carlson clip because he's in this new weird era where he's now actually advocating for the redistribution of wealth from the richest to the poorest. And he's not even doing it in like a socialist type way, but he is advocating for a social democracy very close to what we'd advocate for. Hey, we think that the richest of the rich need to redistribute their wealth to the people who are struggling so vulnerable communities can live in comfort and have the same opportunity. I'm not somebody who wants a full-on communist society. I never have, but I do want there to be redistribution of wealth within the society we currently live in to maximize the happiness of everyone. And it's weird seeing Tucker Carlson come around in his own weird right-wing way. Take a listen.
They're getting rewarded for it. The unfairness of it drives you crazy. And it's particularly galling in the case of Jeffrey Epstein and the whole constellation of people around Jeffrey Epstein, all of whom seem to be getting away with scams. And how do you know they're getting away with scams? I'll tell you how, because they're useless and they're rich. So how do you come to a place where some of the least impressive, most useless people who have no actual skills become billionaires? How's that legitimate? And by the way, if you ask this question, at least in Washington, it's like, oh, well, yeah, it sounds like you're a socialist. Sounds like socialism. Yeah, okay, I'm a socialist now. All right. I was a Qatari agent or a bigot, now I'm a socialist. All right. Leaving aside my committed socialism, can you answer the question? How did Bill Ackman get $9 billion? Bill Ackman, a pretty impressive guy? I know Bill Ackman. No. Bill Ackman's like well-connected and super aggressive. That's it.
Here's the thing. I, unfortunately, due to the nature of my job in the media, have watched a decent amount of these Turning Point USA panels. It's been interesting to me this weekend, hearing what Tucker Carlson says to Charlie Kirk, and then hearing what Charlie Kirk says to Laura Ingraham. There was a Megyn Kelly panel. All of the right-wing figures are there, talking to the youth, and over and over and over, they are not happy with the Epstein cover-up. Again, a lot of them are blaming it on Pam Bondi rather than Donald Trump, but we're getting closer. The cracks are showing, people are divided, and I want to continue talking about this. There also needs to be space to talk about ICE, to talk about Trump's insane authoritarian immigration enforcement. I made a video about that earlier this morning. Go check that out. There also needs to be room to talk about all of this stuff, the big ugly bill, but the Epstein cover-up is a key piece when it comes to MAGA trusting this current administration. And let's continue talking about it. Drop a like, subscribe below. I love you all, and peace out.